Greetings YouTube, and welcome to a video that potentially is the start of an ongoing series that will come up on my channel from time to time, because you see, I believe the emotional state of so many players right now in Marvel Contest of Champions is in a crisis of sorts, because I keep hearing from people in the Line app who personally reach out to me and occasionally via email who say something like, "Prof, I'm ready to quit the game because I just haven't gotten a good pull in so long." And it's a really tough thing to do, to only get excited about a pull in a 5-star crystal or a 4-star crystal or certainly a 6-star crystal if you get one of 10 champions or even one of 20 champions. Because you easily have an 80 to 90% chance to not get one of those champions. And when you do, you just instantly are overcome, assuming you, of course, don't get one of those champions. You're instantly overcome with sadness, with anger, with regret, and this is even heightened if you ended up spending units or money, like today's 6-star $100 offer for 1/5 of a crystal. And somebody commented, "Hey, my buddy just spent $100 to get a 6-star jugs." And they were laughing, but obviously that's no laughing matter if you're the person who invested all of that money for a champion that you feel like is pretty worthless. And I will say, Unawakened Juggernaut is pretty darn worthless. But believe it or not, he is going to start out this video for you. So I wanted to talk about basically champs that are either toward the bottom or at the very bottom of so many MCOC tier lists, but champs that I think are underappreciated and underrated. I couldn't tell really what this should be titled, whether it be like 10 underappreciated or 10 unappreciated MCOC champs. So I'm just going to say they're both, and for the sake of this video, I'm going to talk about as attackers, not as defenders, because you have somebody like a Groot, for example, who sucks as an attacker, but can be a huge pain as a defender, especially when you're starting out and you haven't gotten used to, baiting specials or even, baiting the special too can still be pretty tricky sometimes, for me at least, against Groot. But without further ado, we're kind of just going to rotate between the classes. And one of the best classes, and the reason why we've only had one champion in like 2 years of being released, is arguably the best class, and that is the Mystic class. And so I just want to tell you real quick a quick story. So when I started out the game, of course, I had really terrible champions. I had Hulkbuster and Magneto as like my top two. And then I got this champion that became instantly my favorite champion. And I didn't watch other YouTube videos. Obviously, I didn't have a YouTube channel of my own. I wasn't in an alliance. So I didn't know there was so much hate for this champion until I started watching other people's videos and just seeing a bunch of negative feedback. And I don't get it. And to a certain extent, I still don't get it. Because Juggernaut, Awakened, that's the key word, is still one of my favorite champions to play as an attacker. I don't see what is not to be excited about. When you start off any match, assuming you're not also going up against an Unstoppable, with an advantage to be aggressive as soon as it starts. Juggernaut is also a great secret to completing Legends runs in a fast time when you're going through the heroic monthly difficulty and you just want the fight to end quick, because you don't have to worry about landing a parry. You don't have to worry about anything besides just attacking, because the Unstoppable is going to give you that advantage and cause the opponent to not really have a chance before they're knocked out. This is a very painstaking, methodical process that I used to take down the Collector for the first time in Act 5, Chapter 2. That's how I became uncollected, by using my Juggernaut over and over again with guaranteed damage, and then pretty much instantly dying after that first initial combo. But I did it a lot, and I had a bunch of level 1 revives saved up, and so I got it done. But Juggernaut, it's fun to play, and I think when you add some Mystic Dispersion to him and you're able to get the Special 1 off faster, the Special 2 also does a considerable amount of damage. And speaking of Juggernaut's underrated usages, his Special 3 automatically pins the defender in the corner, and that can be a huge advantage as well, especially if you're fighting someone like a Rhino who you don't want to give a bunch of space to, so that when they intercept, they could become unblockable. So I really like Juggernaut. I see a lot of people pull Juggernaut because I think he's one of the common champions that Kabam's algorithm gives in crystals. And I see a lot of people just get very upset. Even when they awaken their Juggernaut, they're like, oh my gosh, an awakened 6-star Juggernaut, that sucks. Yeah, yes, it does suck compared to someone like a 6-star Domino. But at the same time, there's a lot of usages for a 6-star awakened Juggernaut. And for people who are watching this, who maybe their first awakened 4-star champion is Juggernaut, like, you should be excited about that. You should be able to use him in Alliance Quest and questing in general. And so Jugs doesn't get the credit that he deserves, and he is the first member of this list of 10 for me. Now, the second member of the Mystic class I want to talk about is somebody that I still don't know why he gets so much attention in the negative context, because Loki, first and foremost, if you're starting out the game, he's one of the best champions to steal regeneration, like from an Iron Man or Superior Iron Man, to instantly turn into a health boost. One of my good friends in the MCOC community actually took up his Loki to 565 Head Shadow, and he loves it. And he sends me videos all the time that I can just see how amazing a 565 Loki is when you're playing him well. The most famous use of Loki in the past year or so has been the final Ultron boss in Act 5. But regardless, you've got the unblockable Special 2, the Special 3, with the way that you can inflict a curse. And just in general, I've seen so many fights where Loki is an MVP. And kind of like the trickster in the movies, he can be a trickster in the game. The president of my channel, Mr. Don't Trust Anybody, favorite champion of all time, would have traded all of his quote-unquote god-tier champs for Loki. That's how much he loved him, and I hope, buddy, someday you get him. So Loki is the second champ of underrated attacker, and also, fun to play as well. Now, speaking of somebody that I was told the theory was got a silent buff, I don't know if that's true, but either way, I love fighting with Iron Fist, and this is one of the most common 6-stars that people get. And when awakened, especially, I love just stacking armor breaks, and you can tell with the focus ability, Iron Fist repeated strikes to pressure points wreak cumulative havoc on the target's armor rating with a 21% chance to reduce it by 360.49 for each activation. But I love stacking these armor breaks and going up against a champion that sucks to fight, like a Iron Man Infinity War. And just in general, you can do a lot of damage really fast. I've seen people do really great damage with an unawakened 6-star Iron Fist, and I think this is one of those champs that a lot of people throughout their time eventually are going to get. And, you should just try to learn to embrace the Iron Fist because he's, at least better in his Netflix series. Let's say that. So the final Mystic champion that I want to talk about in this list of 10 is someone that was the least popular Mystic champion as voted in the Collector's Crystal, the $1 crystal, last December, which is already over a year ago, which is crazy to think about. And that is someone that is so insanely underrated and underappreciated. That's Thorjane Foster, who also got a little bit of a buff with the shock damage differences in the past month or so. But yeah, when you apply the shock damage of the Special 1 and then you time the RNG right, you'll just get this unlimited stun. And besides that, that is an incredible counter with the heavy to someone like a Medusa boss in Alliance War. I am a huge fan of Thorjane Foster. I still don't get why so many people don't like playing with her. Now, given I'm not the best player, but I feel like once you understand the value of causing the opponent to have shock damage, which is still one of those things that most people, including Iceman, are not immune to. And yes, you've got someone like a Korg, but otherwise, such a great attacker. And when you have a Special 1 in this game that you can rely on, you don't have to worry about building up that power meter to a Special 2 or Special 3. That's fantastic. And in this case, if you have a few Mystic Dispersion points, that makes it even easier to get that Special 1 up to enjoyment. Now, the next champion, which is not from this class, thank God, is a champ that I might be on the actual side of history as maybe the only person on YouTube that loves this champion. Still, this is the first champion that I went for as a featured crystal. If I had known that Stark Spidey was a few months later, I would have definitely saved it. And in retrospect, it's still fun for people to laugh at me because this was, on paper, one of the dumbest things anyone in this community has ever done. But I still love me some Howard the Duck. And I love using this guy's special 2. And every once in a while, I'll hear from somebody who's like, Prof, I'm new to the game, put my Howard the Duck on a unblockable special 2, and I got an awesome kill. I'm like, that's cool. But in general, I find him fun. Maybe I'm weird for that. He's a bit of a tank, and I just enjoy the random RNG of the special 2. So many cool things can happen, and yes, he is a quote-unquote meme, but I still think if you pull a Howard the Duck, you should celebrate that, and you should have some fun busting out that special 2 and just enjoying the unique animations that this champion has. Now, if you want to talk about an effective special 1, another champion that I see some people sometimes, especially as a 5-star curse when they get, and I just don't get why, is a champion that maybe if he went away in the game, not a lot of people would notice, and that's Mr. Venom Pool. I have become an even bigger fan of Venom Pool as I fight with him a lot in the arena as a 5-star, and I just enjoy the special 1 ability of this champion. As a reminder, the symbiote has an 87% chance to steal an enemy buff effect from the opponent and feed it to Deadpool to trigger his healing factor, recovering 998.1 health over 7 seconds. It's just, I know it says 87%. I feel like I do that almost 100%. I can only count on maybe one hand the amount of times it didn't work. And so it's fun. I like champions that you can just kind of spam their special 1 and not have to worry about building up that power meter too high. Now, we're going to get away from the discussions of specials because another champion that I feel like in the process of so many good skill champions coming out, with the latest being Aegon, I think a lot of people are not as high as they should be on OG Black Panther, because this is the first champion that I ever opened from a 4-star crystal that I could stack bleeds, and man, that was so much fun to do such crazy damage. And there are some synergy advantages to putting him with someone like a Black Panther Civil War, but for the sake of this video, I didn't want synergies to be factored in. I just wanted it to be the champion themselves out of the box, out of the crystal. Black Panther deserves more credit for being a fun champion to play that can do a ton of damage. I've known a couple people who still bring Black Panther into Alliance Quest on certain paths, but especially even in Alliance War, because, of course, that one season where we had bleed immunity was something that you wouldn't talk about this guy. But in general, I love fighting with Black Panther. Even now, he kind of gets lost in the bleed stack discussion because you have champions like Wolverine and X-23. But in general, OG Black Panther, if you open an OG Black Panther, you should be excited. He is not somebody that you should, curse the wind at. Now, the next champion I have is my favorite X-Man to discuss. And even though I think he should be better than he is, I have gotten so much fun usage out of the Gambit Special 1 specifically. That stun that you continue to use. And Gambit became kind of an MVP in the variant difficulty with the Special 1 stun as well. And that's part of the reason why I ranked my Gambit back up to rank 5 to eventually bring him in when I clear variant, hopefully in the next 6 months. But yeah, I just haven't had the time. But, Gambit's fun, and I think his mechanics are fun. I think he's got beautiful animations. And in general, that Special 1 is key. And assuming you don't have an unstunnable node, it's pretty fun to play, and he deserves some credit. So if you get Gambit, don't curse the wind either. I also remember somebody once put up an insane amount of arena points to get a 4-star Gambit because it was just their favorite X-Man too. All right, so now let's finish off by talking about a couple champs in the science class. Both of these are probably going to shock you, but I still love playing with Rhino. I love going back and then charging forward, knowing that Rhino's mechanics are going to keep me from being intercepted when the opponent tries to hit me. In fact, if the opponent tries to hit me, I will often, of course, gain the advantage and start off a combo. It's kind of fun, and it's unique, and he's one of those champions that most don't have the ability to do that, and so I find him to be fun to play with. And when I'm able to get my rhythm down, yes, it would be nice for him to a little bit harder, but at the same time, I'm all about it. I'm all about Rhino. I'm all about just having fun in this game. And as long as you dash back and then charge forward, just like Rhino would in, say, the cartoon, he's a ton of fun. Now, the last champion I'm going to show is Fiona Shrek herself. If you don't know who I'm talking about, it is Miss She-Hulk. And the reason why I'm putting her on this list is because I've been doing a little bit of experimentation when I fight with her in the arena, where I will simply parry and then do heavy attack, parry, do heavy attack, parry, do heavy attack. And that can cause a great amount of damage pretty quickly. And building up that rhythm makes it kind of fun. You know, you eventually do get the power meter for your opponent up to like a special one that you'll have to bait out. But besides that, She-Hulk can do a very impressive amount of damage simply by releasing the heavy attack. So I kind of have been down on her for quite some time because every other Hulk pretty much, besides I guess Joe Fixit technically is a Hulk. Somebody told me that. But, you know, Hulk, Red Hulk, they've all received buffs. Gladiator Hulk instantly came into the game and was great. But She-Hulk has kind of been forgotten, and maybe for good reason. But if you don't know how to use her, just know she can cause a good amount of stun. And that heavy attack is highly, highly underrated. So there you have it. These are champions that traditionally people would curse the Kabam gods for sending them. But if you do that, you're going to be cursing a lot, you're going to be sad a lot, and your love of the game is honestly going to go down. So my goal is to have these videos every once in a while that just remind people that there are still great usages for people who maybe aren't as exciting to open, champions that are kind of forgotten. But hopefully this video, which I tried to keep under 20 minutes, and it says it's about 16, so I'm in this now, and just say thanks for watching. And if there's other champions that you think are really underappreciated that didn't make this list, comment below and let me know, and I'll try to add them to episode 2 at some point when I have the time to make that one.